Welcome to another episode of I'll Be Your Show. My name is Maria Carmen Araiza, and today we're going to be talking about the Romper versus Simpsons Supreme Court case. So first, we're going to go into a different types of sections within this episode. We're going to be talking about the background of this case, what the Supreme Court ruled, what is my argument, what do I believe, evidence that I have for you guys, and then also the implications and other. We're gonna add a little bit of other things. So first, let's start off with the background. So it starts off with Christopher Simmons, who is 17 years old. He planned and committed a capital murder, which is first degree murder. He murdered Shirley Crook, which was a female, a woman. So then he planned first degree. First, we're gonna talk about what first degree murder is. First degree murder is when a person has intentions, when a person has planned this out for a, a minute, when and he just planned to injure or even possibly kill this person. Let's talk about the what the district attorney offered Chris. They offered Chris life to prison and he declined this and went to trial. He went to trial and was accused of first degree murder, and he was sentenced to death at just the age of 18. Wow. So then he was sentenced to death at the age of 18 in 2003. 9 years after his conviction, the Missouri Supreme Case Court reviewed his case. And then they looked at it and they said, you know what? We're going to take this person into trial again. We're going to take them into the U.S. Supreme Court so they could hear the case, so then they could give him another trial, because they believed that it was just cruel for a teenage boy who committed murder. It was just cruel. They just thought it was cruel. And they also believed that it violated his 8th and 14th Amendment. So then now we're going to talk about what the Supreme Court ruled. So the Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 opinion. It was delivered by Justice Anthony Kennedy in March of 2005. So the Supreme Court ruled that the standards of deficiency have evolved so that executing juvenile offenders who committed while younger than 18 is cruel and unusual punishment prohibited by the 8th Amendment. So then, in short words, in short terms, they thought that he did not deserve this, that he was not innocent, but we know there was enough evidence that convicted this young man into going into prison, but they just thought the sentence was very cruel of them, and it was just very cruel. So then now let's talk about what I believe. Let's talk about what I believe and what evidence I have for you guys. So now let's talk about what I believe. I already said that, but let's talk about what I believe. So I didn't agree with the first sentence. I believe that when he was first sentenced to death, I feel like it was a little harsh for an 18-year-old. Well, yes, he did commit murder. He planned to intentionally hurt this person, but then also we should back up a little and like take into consideration like other things, like not necessarily why did he do this, because he planned this, so then therefore he had a reason to commit this murder. But there could be psychological and environmental problems that could have caused them to be this type of person. So then I believe that the Missouri Supreme Court did well in appealing for Christopher. Excuse me. And I agree with the majority of the judges, because he was 18. He was young, and he also had psychological problems with himself. His family also suffered from psychiatrist illnesses. So then, therefore, it was basically like a family heritage. He was surrounded by poverty and non-influential people his whole life. Um, So this could play a role in why he acts the way he acts, or why he is the way he is, because people, I'm not saying all people, but mostly all people tend to, when they're in poverty, when they're surrounded by gangs, when they're just surrounded by this type of stuff, tend to be influated by these types of people. So then they just become part of it, because they grew up their whole life with this type of violence. He has a lot to mature of. And then I feel like the US Supreme the court justice could take into consideration this. And then from my perspective and my knowledge, he did not receive any psychological treatment. I don't think his family received any psychological treatment as well. So then this could interfere with how he basically acts. I also understand the other judges, like he did plan and commit murder, so I understand like why would you would want to sentence him. But I just feel like a death penalty is just a little too harsh on him, because he is young. He has a lot to grow of. He has just a lot to go of, you know? And then, so a lot of people tend to think, well, why would he do this? Like, why do teenagers do this? Like, um, an article by David Dobbs. It's called "Beautiful Brains." It says that teens' brains don't fully develop until their age of 20. So around your 20s is when when your brain is fully developed, when you tend to comprehend things a little more, and just like, yeah, because there is a process during the ages of 17 to 19, I believe, that your brain goes through like this certain type of process. And this process, like, it could interfere with a lot of things. Like, it could interfere with like how you act, and how you do certain things. So then therefore, I believe that this could have happened. Well, this at his age, this stage of this brain restorement could have happened. So then I believe that this could be one interference, but then another interference with why he is the way he is could be of his surrounding and his childhood his childhood traumas. The implications. So this case happened back in 2005. Back then, juveniles could be sentenced to life without parole. Life without parole is basically your whole life in prison, and you can't get out. You're basically in there your whole life. Death penalty is when you are basically to death, means you stay in jail until you die. The death penalty means that they you like put you down. And then so other cases like the Graham versus Florida in 2005, Miller and Alabama in 2012, the Johns versus Mississippi in 2021 caused the Supreme Court to remove any capital punishment for the people under the age of 18. This has a lot of impact that a lot of teenagers do not know, because it causes Supreme Court to take into consideration the brain development and psychological factors that happen within teenagers. This basically opened their eyes into being more lenient with teens and taking opinions of psychiatrists and psychologists. So basically, what it means that these cases have opened the eyes of court justices, and they basically just look at other things, specifically they look at teenagers. The majority of them look at teenagers and take into consideration other factors of why they tend to commit the murder they commit. So then now we're coming to the ending now. I already gave you guys a lot of cool evidence of why he maybe committed this murder, and I already talked to you guys about Christopher Simon and how he basically committed murder, and he appealed his excuse me, he appealed his, basically his sentence, his trial. So that a lot of people state that he did deserve to be sentenced to death. I understand that part. He did commit murder, which indicates like, ew, he planned it out. But I believe people should also understand how your surroundings affect people. People who tend to be surrounded by poverty gains or have psychological problems within their family have a lot of effect on how they act as a person. Children tend to learn fast and their brain understands and comprehends what their parents do. In short terms, if a kid sees their mom or their father or their guardian or just another sibling or something, if they see them do something, children tend to want to copy them because they say, okay, this is a good, because children don't understand at a young age. Children don't understand the good and bad meaning of anything, so they just tend to copycat whoever they look up to. So children's manners and early childhood education is based off of their parents. Some children don't have that role in their life. They don't have the role of a good parent or quote unquote good parent. They don't have this good figure in life to look up to. They don't have this person who shows them what it is to be a good quote unquote a good kid in the future. They tend to look up more to the people that show them more love and affection. They tend to look up to the people that basically just support them and say, "Oh, I'm proud of you," or like this and this and this and that. Like they just tend to look at the person that they strongly believe is a good person. So then now let's talk about the case. So yes, he did commit murder. Yes, he was 17 when the murder was committed. Yes, it was first degree murder. But the judges and audience should also take into consideration the psychological factors and surroundings of this person. So then therefore I believe the sentence could have possibly went down just because he was 18. They could have been more lenient on him since the beginning. They could have taken into considerations all these factors of why he could have possibly committed this murder. They could have done things like that. But instead, they just sentenced him to death. But then he had to fight against his own sentence. So then I believe the Missouri Supreme Court did a good job in trying to get him under the sentence, which they did. So then, yeah, I believe they did a good job in. Well, he didn't do a good job in committing murder, but I mean, at least his sentence went down a little and etc. And yeah. And now here we come to the end. So, what do you think? Do you think the judges did a good job in their second decision, or do you believe that their first decision was a good decision?